Good afternoon and welcome to the Author's Shelf. I'm Georgie Donaghy. This is the Author's Shelf. As I said, my guest today is a bit of a Santa expert. Dimity Powell released her children's debut children's book, P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail last year. I'll be chatting with her very shortly. So sit back and relax as we bring you the stories beyond the page. You're listening to the Author's Shelf on 2SSR 99.7 Sound of the Shire. Coming up next, Dimity Powell. Now it's time to welcome my guest today. When Dimity Powell was little, she read a lot and wanted to be a vet. When she left home, she read even more and fancied dancing the blue fandango. When she grew up, she read and she travelled around the world and yearned to be a sailor. When she married, surprisingly, she still found time to read and dreamt of being a mother. When she fell pregnant, she read to her bump every day and desired nothing more than to share herself. To read, write and inspire sum up Dimity's main passions in life, along with eating untold amounts of ice cream. That sounds quite delicious. Dimity Powell, welcome to the Author's Shelf.
Thanks, Georgie. It's sensational to be here today celebrating the first day of summer with you.
It's lovely, isn't it? Although you're in Queensland, aren't you?
I am. And it's actually not too bad the first day. We've started off without any major hailstorms or rain, so it's a good start so far.
Lovely. Hopefully the weather will pick up and you won't have any more of those nasty storms. Dimity, seeing as we're talking about Christmas on today's show, I thought I'd share a few Christmas jokes with you.
Here we go.
I've been promoting on Facebook all week that we have some cringe-worthy, corny Christmas jokes.
I'll have to match you.
Are you ready for my first one?
Absolutely. Fire away.
Okay. How do you scare a snowman?
Oh, not sure.
A hairdryer.
Oh, goodness me. That's almost as bad as some of mine. What's green, white and red all over, Georgie?
Oh, I don't know. I hate to think.
A sunburnt elf.
Oh, no. Poor thing. Okay, all right.
Better.
All right, we'll have some more of those during the show. Now, let's talk about you. What is the Dimity Powell story?
Well, you're absolutely right, Georgie. I did want to be all those things when I was younger, especially a vet. I absolutely loved books, and they were my best friends along with animals. So I was quite shy, you see, as a kid. So naturally, I chose a career in hospitality with loads of people in my face all the time instead, which is quite weird. I didn't have any firm aspirations to be a writer at that stage, but thankfully the occupation I did choose, the hospitality and wish fulfillment industry, it did take me overseas, so I've done quite a bit of travel, and eventually when I came home I had this wonderful collection of stories. So then I decided to really, carry on from then after going around the world a couple of times or maybe more.
That sounds very exciting. Do you think any of your overseas adventures will make their way into future stories? We'll talk about the Santa story very shortly.
Sure. Yeah, I hope so. I'd like to think so, and some probably have already, Georgie. I've made notes along the way among my travels, and I'm a bit of a hoarder, so that bodes very well, that habit, when you are a writer, because you then get a really wonderful collection of ideas. And I've actually even got a bit of a picture book idea up my sleeve from the time that I lived in Antibes, which is in the south of France overseas. So little things that you see in your experiences that you have, they can all accumulate, and I'm hoping some of them will filter into my stories down the track.
That sounds a bit of a teaser there. Very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
When did you first realise that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, that's interesting because it actually, as I said, it wasn't from when I was young. I mean, I met wonderful writers like the late, great Colin Teal when I was growing up, and so I had a lot to do with writing, and as I said, I loved reading and books as well, but nothing really crystallised for me career-wise until I did return home and I started my own family. So I was actually into motherhood, and I realised that I'm not very good at juggling, career and my main job that I saw at the time, which was to raise my family, and that's what I still want to do. I loved writing. I had a desire to do it, so then I sat down seriously then, studied hard, learned a little bit more about the technicalities of it and the craft, and took it from there, basically, and that's when I realised that I could make a career of this, and it's what I wanted to do.
Well, so far you're doing very well. As I said, we'll chat about your Santa book in a short while.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Dimity Powell. Hey, is Dimity Powell. Welcome back, Dimity.
Thank you.
Dimity, I have another joke. You ready?
Oh, always ready for a joke, Georgie.
Okay, all right, ready? What do you call a snowman in the summer?
Oh, no idea. We don't get many of them up here.
No, we don't really in Sydney either, but I thought I'd have it anyway. Anyway, the answer is a puddle.
Oh, good grief. Oh, I love it, though. That's the one I can remember. You seem to like snowman jokes, Georgie.
Well, I did. I picked 2 snowman jokes, and when I was choosing them, I thought, we don't really get snowmen here. I thought, it doesn't matter. They're really
I've got
good.
one for you. Quick one.
Okay,
Quick one. You ready?
Go, yes.
What goes? Now you see me, now you don't. Now you see me, now you don't.
Oh, I did read that one when I can't remember. What is it?
A snowman on a zebra crossing. That's a thinking person's joke, that one.
Okay, yeah, well, that's why I couldn't come up with the answer. That's why. Okay, all right. Tell me, how do you come up with your story ideas?
Well, that's an often asked question, especially with the kids as well. A number of ways. If I'm writing a short story, I like to write to themes sometimes, and often you'll get those, especially in competitions, and I find that's quite challenging, and it helps promote a bit of an idea as well. Obviously, your imagination, but I'm one of those people that I really firmly believe that fact is far more fantastical than fiction, and even our imagination is just really a collection of all the images and memories and things that we've made throughout the course of our life, no matter how long or short. So I draw from a lot of real life experiences, and then of course we embellish them and or enhance them with the imagination. Basically things that happen from around me. I get a lot of ideas from the things my little one says, and also what other children say, or things that I see and read and hear about as well. So it can be just 1 or 2 words or a line that can prompt the what if question and start a story idea for you.
I do that too. If I hear something, I'll then race to Google and go and see has it been done yet. And if it hasn't, I'll scratch it down on a Post-it note or put it somewhere.
Yes.
Now, all right, you have been successful in getting published.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your journey to publication, the rejection letter, that type of thing.
The rejection letter, that's plural actually,
okay,
unfortunately, as is often the case. Well, it's true what they say, everybody's story, journey to publication is different, and mine was too. Mine started off fairly spectacularly, with a bang, and one of the very first short stories I ever subbed out there or submitted once I'd graduated my writing course was to the New South Wales School magazine, and I never thought I'd get in, but that was accepted straight away, and I thought, you beauty, I've cracked it, I can do this, success. But thankfully, years and years and copious amounts of rejection letters spiraling down into mediocrity later, that helped me come back to earth rather quickly. So I spent those years doing my apprenticeship, learning about the craft as much as I could, attending festivals and workshops and seminars and so on. And then eventually I entered a competition with one of my novel manuscripts, thinking again, not much would come of it. I class myself as the bridesmaid author. I was always getting second place and, highly commended and shortlisted, which was great, fantastic. But I never thought I'd crack it until one day I did, and I actually won a full publishing contract, which is how P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail came about and evolved. So I was really happy that eventuated, but it took quite a number of years and a lot of rejection letters.
But I think the message to people who are trying to crack the publishing market is enter competitions, enter anything that you can, because it does help to get your name out there.
Absolutely. Not only that, I really believe it fine-tunes your writing. It's a great discipline to do and to keep practicing and, of course, getting your words written. If you just aim for 1 or 2 things and fall short, it can be quite discouraging. So as you said, you've got to keep putting the volume out there as well as learning about how to. So
exactly.
Yes.
Now, all right. Now, you opened the door there. Tell us about P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail?
Well, that, as I said, is my first little junior chapter book or novel for children about 7 to 10 years old. I aim for. I tend to write for that kind of age group. I'm rather fond of it, to be honest, because it initiated as a writing assignment exercise when I was still studying, and then it was put on the back burner for quite a long while. But I have a fondness to it because it's probably a bit like your first romance or your first kiss. It'll never happen again. And when I was writing it, I wrote from the heart. I probably didn't know a lot of the nuances and the technicalities about, properly writing, and I wasn't all caught up on structure and what to do and what not to do. So things just kind of flowed, and I loved it. And obviously it was probably quite flawed in those early days, and it's since, been polished up. But I like it because it was my first one, and it is all about Christmas, which I adore, and I love being able to share that sort of magic with kids as well. So, yeah, it was a lovely first way to start from a novel point of view.
And we were chatting the other day and you said it is very hard to write a seasonal book.
Yes. Absolutely. There are some peculiarities of it, which I never conceived, of course, when I started writing about Santa and missing mail and the lead up to Christmas. I just thought that was kind of a nice time of year to write about. But once you do have a seasonally themed book, it becomes rather a task to sell it at any other time of the year apart from Christmas. It's not all doom and gloom. I've recently, investigated more ways of marketing that book and getting it out there and keeping the interest up. But clearly, if you do write just about the Easter Bunny, you're not going to be selling, loads and loads of volumes around Halloween time. So you need to be conscious of that when you're writing your story topic and subject, yes.
Exactly. All right, I've got another joke for you. Are you ready?
No.
All right. What did the Christmas tree say to the ornament?
What did the Christmas tree say to the ornament, Georgie? I don't know.
Aren't you tired of hanging around?
We need more drum rolls.
I think we do. Okay, ready? There you go. All right, look, we're going to return after this short break when Dimity's going to read us an excerpt from P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail. If you'd like to interact with us during the show, you can chat with us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Author's Shelf, or you can tweet us at The Author's Shelf. Now, I promised that Dimity would read us a little excerpt from her book. So here is Dimity with an excerpt from P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail.
Thanks, Georgie. Just to fill you in, it's a little excerpt from a chapter, and this is a Christmas mystery, and we've got our hero Sam and his best mate Toby, and they're just having some concern because the mailboxes in their town are starting to disappear, and they've just made an encounter with someone who has very pointy ears and sharp teeth. Okay, so here we go. The elf scrambled backwards, then, glancing down, snatched up Sam's scooter and took off down the footpath. "My scooter!" shouted Sam. "I'll get it." Toby bounded after the elf, curls bouncing madly like miniature mattress springs. Sam ran after them, but was suddenly hurled flat on his back. He felt like he'd been hit by Santa's sleigh, fully loaded. Startled, he sat up and peered through his tangled fringe at Toby, who, only a few feet away, was bent in half trying to breathe. Macduff nuzzled Sam gently. "I'm okay, boy," Sam reassured the dog. "I must have run into something, though." But when he looked again, all he could see was Toby. No poles, no trees, no elf, and no scooter. Sam touched his top lip. His mouth was filled with a metallic taste. Raising his hand, he saw his fingers were covered in blood. He wondered how he'd smashed his lip by falling backwards. Even more puzzling was where the back of his stained fingers were resting. He carefully raised his hands up in front of his face, slowly moving them in small circles as if he was polishing his dad's car. The air under them felt cold and hard and flat and suspiciously like a postbox. There we go.
Very interesting.
Doesn't give too much away,
No.
but you'll have to read the rest to see what is exactly going on.
And we'll tell our listeners how they can pick up a copy of P.S. Who Stole Oh my gosh, I'm tongue-tied. Must be all those corny jokes. Sorry.
It's quite a short title too, Georgie.
I think it's the P.S. that gets me. I get a bit tongue-tied. So it's P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail.
That's it.
Don't try and say that too quickly 3 times. All right, we're chatting with Dimity Powell this afternoon on the Author's Shelf. Good afternoon. It is currently 12:31 and 20.6 around the Shire. We'll be back in just a minute. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I'm chatting with Dimity Powell. Dimity, what advice would you give to someone who is about to submit their work to publishers for the very first time?
Oh, that's a tricky one, Georgie, but the biggest advice would be to stop, not to not do it, but to go back, double, triple, quadruple, then triple check again. In other words, don't settle for less on your manuscript or your work, because often if you think it's almost good enough and that'll get through, the publishers won't settle for it, and you may not get another chance. So enlist the help of beta readers, your writers group if you're with them, get appraisals if you can afford it, or even have an editor look over it for you. In other words, make your work the best you possibly can. We hear that a lot, but I cannot, define it enough for you. It's not enough for you to love your own work. You have to really be able to convince others to love it as well. And then once you do send it, stop again, go back and start your next project if you haven't done so already. That's very important, because what's done is done then. You need to keep moving on and getting more material ready to send again. And probably I'd write a little, please request note to Santa as well, because it's that time of the year and every little bit helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Very useful advice there. I'm Georgie Donaghy, and you're listening to The Author's Shelf on 99.7 FM. Be right back. Now, I'm chatting with Dimity Powell this afternoon. Dimity, I've got another joke for you. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay. What did the sea say to Santa?
I don't know, Georgie.
Nothing. It just waved.
Oh, God, I love it. You can never bore me with Christmas jokes.
Okay. I have to get the corniest ones. I'm sorry. Sure. Okay. Now, all right, how important is it for an emerging author to get their name out there, such as, blogging or reviewing or running out in the street with a board or...
sandwich board. I don't know if that's worked for me yet, but I tell you, unfortunately, more and more important these days, Georgie. I mean, your work may or may not speak for itself. It's not enough that you absolutely love writing for kids, as I do, and, you really want to impart something with them and to share things with them and experiences. That all counts. But unfortunately, this children's writing industry, or kids lit as we fondly call it, I absolutely adore it, but it's one of the most competitive industries I've ever worked in. Not from a cutthroat point of view, but purely because of the numbers. There are a lot of us out there, and we're all trying to deliver the same or similar thing for children, so that's all fine. But because of the sheer numbers and the sheer mass, to carve your own little niche in there and to stand out is getting more and more difficult. So especially for emerging and newer writers, or even established authors today, it's becoming more critical to have a very sound author brand or make a name for yourself. Use all the usual things such as social media, if that's your bent. You need to really apply yourself and be a good listener, pay attention, take everything in, visit forums, visit workshops and festivals. For instance, the Creative Kids Tales blog is fantastic for that kind of thing, or your website, because it has a little bit of everything. It's there for emerging authors, established authors. It connects you with competitions and what's going on in the industry as well. All of this is vitally important, I think. You need to, in other words, stay tuned as an author and then, of course, create a good sound audience or reading audience even before you get your first piece of work out there. You want to, them to be able to respect you and, admire your work as much as anything, and you, and then obviously you need to deliver. So, yeah, it is getting more and more important that we stay tuned to that kind of thing and really work on it a lot more than we used to, I think.
I think publishers are saying the same thing. They like it if you have a name out there, if you already have a presence in social media. So
yes,
exactly,
absolutely.
and you talked about Creative Kids Tales. Thank you very much for that. If you're an emerging author and if you're looking for somewhere to display your work, not only emerging authors but also illustrators, visit the creativekidstales.com.au website. There you'll find a complete listing, publishers listing, competition information, writing tips and a whole lot more. It's a great site to assist you on your journey to publication. And today, Creative Kids Tales are celebrating their second birthday, and tonight they'll be having an online birthday party, so anybody in Australia can attend the party. Come in your jammies if you like, on Facebook. So Facebook tonight from 9 o'clock till 9:30 Sydney time. Coming up next on 2SSR is Macedonian Radio with Millet and Petco. Dimity, what's coming up next from you?
Oh, well, as Pink, and you've already referred to it, it's time to get the party started, Georgie. I've got actually quite a few bookish kind of functions happening any minute now, and one of them is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators party as well. But, you mean work, don't you? Well, work-wise, I've actually got quite a few projects on the go at the moment. I'm working on another couple of chapter books, which I'm really getting excited about. And best of all, I was awarded a grant this year from the Creative Industries Career Fund, which is great because that means I can now continue to develop another one or two of my picture book projects as well. So I'm extremely excited about that. stay tuned because hopefully there's some more news about that on the horizon as well. But I basically just want to declutter my brain next year as well, a little bit more, let the words back in and plan to write more. We always say that, but that's my plan, to write more.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yes, we'll write more too.
I hope so.
I have to put other projects aside, but it never happens. You seem to take on more and more. And you won a grant. Congratulations.
I did, thank you.
That's
yes.
fantastic. That's another thing that authors need to do as well, or emerging authors. I know established authors as well apply for grants. But if you can get a grant that will help you, there's lots of different sites. I think the Australian government site has a whole list of grants.
Absolutely. Yes, they do. You've got to. It's like anything, just research it, get out there and have a little poke around and a look, and you'll be amazed at what you can come up with. And all these things can help you towards your goal a little bit too.
Absolutely. Now, don't forget, this week we're giving away a copy of Dimity's book, P.S. Who Stole Santa's Mail. Pop over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Author's Shelf, and tell us what was the most unusual thing that you asked Santa for. We'll pick a winner on our next show. And this afternoon, it's now 12:50 on 2SSR, 21 degrees around the Shire. Dimity, one more joke.
Oh, okay. Go on.
How do you know when Santa's in the room?
Oh, it gets cold? I don't know.
You can sense his presence.
Oh, that's a little bit sixth sense-ish, isn't it? That's
okay.
Excellent. Thank you, George.
All right, no more. Thank you very much, Dimity, for joining us this afternoon on the Author's Shelf.
That's all right. It's my pleasure. I'd just like to wish you and all your listeners as well out there the best of what I love to call the silly season. Have a great Christmas. And thanks for having me too. It's been fun.
Thank you very much. Now, if you'd like to find out more about Dimity, you can visit her blog, which is dimswritestuff.blogspot.com.au. Now I'll spell that. It's DIMS for Sam, WRITESTUFF.blogspot.com.au. There you can find out lots more about Dimity, where she's speaking, what she's got coming up next. And guest Dimity Powell for today. We'll be back on the 15th of December for our Christmas show, where I'll be chatting with Paul Collins, who's an author for children, young adults and adults. He's also a publisher, so you won't want to miss out on that show. Until the 15th of December, happy writing, and I hope you enjoyed our really corny jokes today. I'll see you in